This is News 3.
It's a 50% budget for important human services that deserve 100% of our attention.
Governor Quinn vetoes what he calls a bare-bones spending plan, leaving the state with no budget and agencies with no choice but to start making cuts. Good evening. Today is the first day of the Illinois budget year and the first day of layoffs for those who provide state-funded services.
There are thousands of cuts across the state. Here in our region, 59 jobs were eliminated at the H Group, which serves Franklin and Williamson counties. The agency has eliminated its residential treatment program for drug and alcohol addiction and lost a grant to provide medications for mental health patients. Social service providers continue to call on lawmakers to come up with a solution.
What I would just urge the legislators to do and the governors to work together to resolve this crisis, because it's not just our clients that are impacted, it's not just our staff that are impacted, it's the communities that will be impacted.
The governor's veto comes after the General Assembly failed over the past 4 days to come up with a full budget plan.
With their special session over, lawmakers are returning to their districts now and trying to explain why the state is still without a budget. For some answers, we turn to Senator John O. Jones of Mount Vernon. He joins us now live on the phone, and Senator Gary Forby of Benton here in studio. Senator Forby, we'll start with you. We're already hearing of the fallout. Now what?
Well, we need to go back and do our jobs. You know, two things the legislators need to do. They need to put people to work and pay their bills. And in the Senate, we done that. We passed the capital bill that would put people to work, and we passed revenue that would take care of the pay their bills, and you wouldn't see none of these people being laid off today.
And you supported the tax increases, which you are referencing there. You still think that's the best solution that needs to happen?
Well, there's only two solutions for what to happen. You either do a tax solution or you lay people off. And people, you know, you do away with kids, you do away with veterans homes, nursing homes, state police, and so on down the road. You know, you step up the plate, you got to say, I want all these people don't have a job, or you do a tax thing where you take care of your kids and your veterans homes and your nursing homes. So I think that's the most important thing.
Senator Jones on the phone right now. How do you feel about the tax increase?
Well, I'm not going to support a tax increase until we actually get down and are involved in the budget process. And, you know, we as Republicans were not involved in the budget process until after June the 1st, and then we've been invited to the table. But most of the talks with Leader Rodonio that I serve with in the Senate, her request from her has been that, you know, vote for a tax increase. And we've said, let's do reforms, and quite frankly, the general public has an outcry for reforms.
So reforms, the way to fill the $11 billion deficit, in your opinion?
Well, you can't close the deficit, and quite frankly, I don't think anybody in Springfield or the state of Illinois actually knows what the deficit is right now. I mean, Governor Quinn was on the House floor in a joint session addressing all of us yesterday, and he said $9.2 billion. President Cullerton, 4 hours later on the Senate floor, called it $6.2 billion. I think our Republican staff members will tell you it's around $5.5 to $6 billion is what we are short. And if we'd have done the pension bonding bill last night, that would have freed up $2.2 billion. You know, I don't think it's the way to solve the problems of the state of Illinois. What we have got to do is to go back and cut the waste out of the state budget right now. Laying off people is not the answer, and quite frankly, this is just another tactic by Governor Quinn, and I have great respect for Governor Quinn, but this is just another tactic to rev up a population to ask us all to vote for a tax increase. But I've talked with some correctional officers today, and quite frankly, they're saying, you know, don't lay us off, but don't do a tax increase unless you absolutely have to. And now the union officials in Springfield will tell you differently. They all they want to do is do a tax increase. And I think that's what Governor Quinn's problem has been, is that he just thought by asking for a tax increase that it would automatically happen on May the 31st. And then when he called us back yesterday, he thought, you know, we'll just roll over and vote for a tax increase, and it didn't even come up for a vote in either chamber.
So it sounds like, Senator Forby, a tax hike and a spending cuts combination is going to be needed for this all to be settled. So where do you cut if you don't want to cut for veterans and for seniors and for children? Where can these cuts happen?
Well, we got a list of in the Senate of $10 billion worth of programs that can be cut. We need to sit down on there And in the bill I passed, there's going to be at least $1 billion cut out of that
What
program.
are some of those? Talk about some of those programs.
Well, you know, I'm not really sure I can talk about some of them programs, but I think there are plenty of programs out there that we can cut. You know, the people call us, you know, you need to cut some. So in the bill that we passed where it's going to be $1 billion worth of cut, and then we're going to do, and that's what the legislators have to do, is sit down with a group and see where we can cut. And I'm sure there's some places out there we can cut.
And one last thing, you're not going to be back in Springfield till July 14th. Why the 2-week delay on this if there's a crisis going on?
If it was up to me, we'd be back tomorrow. You know, I think the legislators, especially the 5 leaders, they ought to be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They should not leave. I don't think the leaders are doing their job, Republicans and Democrats. You know, they need to get us something we can vote on and bring us back up there and let us vote on it. I mean, they wanted the big job, they ought to do it.
But are people talking? The lines of communication are open, in your opinion?
There are some talking, but they are not talking. And most of the problem is they're playing politics.
Right.
You know, the politics is a big issue on this thing. You know, the Republicans think they can win some seats 2 years, and Democrats don't want to do it, and they think they might lose some seats. But, you know, as me, I'm probably the #1 target state of Illinois. Every time I run, I got the toughest race. But it never bothered me none at all to vote on this revenue, because I think that's what the people in my district wants.
Okay.
All right,
Senator
thank you very
Forby
much.
and Senator Jones on the phone. We thank you both for joining us this evening to talk about the state budget.
And the state budget crisis is forcing the Delta Center